What if the thing you've been searching for your whole life isn't waiting at the end of some distant journey or over the rainbow, but in the courage to finally claim the path your soul has always known was yours? Hey, Magical Soul Society, I'm Rev M.K. Mitchell, board-certified coach, metaphysician, healer, forever Momo, that's misfit, oddball, maverick, and or outcast, depending on the moment, as well as your host, and this is the Magical Soulutions Podcast, where we unlock your soul's wisdom one soul beat at a time. This space isn't about pretending to have all the answers. It's about remembering that the real magic happens when we turn inward, get curious, and listen to the whisper of our own soul. This is your space to remember the magic you carry within. To recognize the path your soul chose before you were born. To trust that the universe is conspiring in your favor, even when you can't see, touch, or feel it. Because you are magical. You are the solution. I'm recording this early in the morning. The sun is shining through my window, but it is cold outside as I'm recording it. The kind of cold that makes you want to stay wrapped up, all cozy and cuddled up. Gretzky's right here near me, and you might have seen Phineas flitting around, but both are patiently waiting for cuddles, knowing that once I finish sharing this message that's so near and dear to my heart, they'll get all the snuggles thereafter. If this episode resonates, please consider sharing it with someone who's ready to claim their personal legend, but might be stumbling. And if you haven't read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, please consider picking it up after this episode. I promise it will speak to your soul. The song playing while I wrote this episode, actually, the entire playlist that kept playing was inspired by the Made in Heaven movie soundtrack. Songs like Up the Ladder to the Roof by the Nylons, Buffalo Springfield's Mr. Soul and I Am a Child, Neil Young's We Never Danced. Oh, I love that song, and I sometimes use that as a meditation song. And also Luther Vandross's There's Only You. There's so many great songs on that soundtrack. And there's songs that I turn to when I need inspiration, when I need a pick-me-up, when I need motivation to keep walking my path. That's the frequency we're tuning into today. We're tuning into uplifting, soulful, and a little bit defiant in the best way, as a Momo will do. Because following your personal legend, it takes all of that and more. Before we dive in, let's arrive together. Close your eyes if it feels safe, or simply soften your gaze. Take one slow, deep breath in and let it go. You are here. Trust that your soul knows the way. In this episode, we're talking about one of the most influential books of my life, and maybe yours too. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you haven't read it yet, I'm going to encourage you to pick this up after this episode, or go ahead and do it now. And if you have read it, maybe it's time to read it again. Maybe this is an omen. Because this book has a way of speaking differently to you, depending upon where you are in your journey. At its heart, The Alchemist is about following your personal legend, your soul's calling, your soul's purpose, the path you were meant to walk. There will not be any spoilers in this episode if you haven't read it yet. I'm going to be talking about the teachings, not the plot. And just a gentle heads up, this episode may stir grief, longing, hope, maybe even a little fear. Please pause if you need to, and always reach out for support from a qualified professional if needed. Here's what I'd like to focus on today: the 4 obstacles that keep us from living that calling. While they're sprinkled throughout the main story, you may not realize you're reading them when you come upon them. I found them in the preface to the 10th anniversary edition. I want to note that I've never seen them discussed like this in any other edition, and I own a few. And when I read them there, laid out so clearly, I felt like Paulo Coelho and my soul had a conversation leading me to this, in which he named every fear, every hesitation, every self-sabotage pattern I'd ever had and probably will have. And woven throughout this entire conversation today is one of my favorite quotes from the book, one that highlights a cornerstone of my faith, faith with a capital F. And that is, and when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. I believed this my entire life, but I had never been able to put it into words until I read this book. So today, we're going to walk through those 4 obstacles together. We're going to talk about how the universe conspires in your favor, even when it doesn't feel like it. And we're going to explore what it actually means to live your personal legend, not as some distant mystical concept, but as a daily practice of perhaps sacred audacity, definitely a magical solution. And I want to name something that will be our reframe today. Every obstacle is proof you're on the path. So let's start with the teaching, the 4 obstacles Paulo Coelho names in the preface to the 10th anniversary edition of The Alchemist. Once you understand these, you'll start recognizing them everywhere in your own life, in the people around you, in every moment you've hesitated to follow what your soul knows is true. Let's walk through them. Your personal legend, what it is and what it isn't. Before we get into the obstacles, let's talk about what a personal legend actually is. In the preface to The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho describes it as the path God chose for you here on earth. Now, I'd like to pause here because while I deeply respect Paulo Coelho's framing, I have a slightly different perspective that aligns with what I believe. I'm going to share that briefly. I don't believe God chooses our path. I believe our soul chooses our path before we're ever born into this human shell, this life. And God walks with us, supporting us along the way as we fulfill our soul's purpose. Next episode, we'll dive into how I believe that works and how God and your soul co-create your life's plan. But for today, just know this: your calling is yours. It's not something imposed on you. It's something you choose. So what is a personal legend? It's something that fills you with enthusiasm. It's the calling you can't ignore. It's the reason you're here. It's what your soul wants you to remember. The Alchemist offers, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. The universe, or God, if you will, is working with you to fulfill your soul's calling. All you have to do is pay attention to the signs, or omens as they're noted in the book, trust your enthusiasm, and take the next step. You don't need to see the destination. You just need to follow what feels true. And here's what I've noticed in my own life and in my work with others. Even when we know our personal legend, even when we feel it almost shouting in our face, sometimes with a 2x4 to the back of the head, we don't always follow it. Why? Paulo Coelho identifies 4 obstacles. Again, in the preface of the 10th anniversary edition, I note this again, and I know I said this already, but I've only seen it written there. And what I love about this framework is that it gives us language for what's happening. It helps us see where we're stuck when we're hesitating, when we're sabotaging ourselves. We're not broken, we're not behind, we're not unworthy, we're not truly lost. We're just facing one of these 4 patterns. All right, obstacle 1. We're told from childhood that everything we want is impossible. Paulo Coelho writes, we are told from childhood onward that everything we want to do is impossible. We grow up with this idea, and as the years accumulate, so too do the layers of prejudice, fear, and guilt. Sound familiar? Imagine it does. This is the obstacle of buried dreams. From a young age, many of us have heard, that's not realistic. You can't make money doing that. Get a real job. Who do you think you are? You'll do as I tell you. I'm sure there's many others. And if you're a Momo, a misfit, oddball, maverick, or outcast, as many of us are, you've probably also heard, you're too sensitive, you're too much, you're too weird. You just need to be more practical. You need to focus. You need to calm down. Thank you, Taylor Swift. As Momos, we often pay a conformity tax. We spend so much energy trying to fit into the box the world built for us that we have nothing left to dig up our dreams. No energy to unbury them. If you've felt exhausted trying to be normal, that exhaustion is actually obstacle number 1 in disguise. And so, layer by layer, year by year, your personal legend got buried. Not because it wasn't real, but because the world told you it was impossible. Paulo Coelho says, as these layers accumulate, our personal calling becomes so deeply buried in our soul as to be invisible. But it's still there. And the first step to following your personal legend is to disinter it. Coelho's words, not mine. Disinter means to dig it back up, to unearth what's been buried, to remember what you knew before the world told you to forget. This is what your soul wants you to remember. What if the thing you wanted as a child before anyone told you it was impossible is still the thing your soul is calling you toward? Every obstacle is proof you're on the path. Obstacle 2, love and the fear of hurting those we care about. Once we've uncovered our calling, once we've disinterred or brought back up that dream, we face the second obstacle. This is the obstacle of misunderstood love. In the book, Coelho talks about how we often hesitate because we're afraid of abandoning the people we love to pursue our dreams. We essentially mistake love for a leash. We think that if we move forward, we're leaving them behind or causing them pain in some way. Perhaps we think on some level, if I follow my personal legend, I'll hurt the people I love. What about my parents who sacrificed so much for me? What about my partner who depends on me? What about my kids or family who need stability? What about my friends who will think I've lost my mind? And so we stay, we shrink, we keep ourselves small to keep others comfortable. But here's what Paulo Coelho in The Alchemist teaches. He says, we do not realize that love is just a further impetus, not something that will prevent us from going forward. Those who genuinely wish us well, want us to be happy, and are prepared to accompany us on that journey. The people who truly love you, they want you to follow your soul's calling. They want you to be happy. They want you to be fulfilled. And if someone is asking you to stay small, to abandon your dream, to ignore your soul's voice, that's not love. That's fear. That's control. That's comfort. That someone could be you. Your personal legend isn't selfish. It's sacred. And when you follow it, you give everyone around you permission to do so and believe the same. And when you follow it, you give everyone around you permission to do this too, and to believe also that it isn't selfish and that it's sacred. Obstacle 3, fear of the defeats we will meet on the path. Okay. Once we've moved past the first 2 obstacles, once we've disentered or reestablished our dream and realized that love doesn't have to hold us back, we face the 3rd obstacle. This is the obstacle of high stakes and vulnerability. When we admit to ourselves and the world that we actually want something, we lose the safety of indifference. It's one of the reasons why people are encouraged to share their dreams. So they're no longer dreams, they're actually goals. They're things that they are going to move toward attaining, why people wind up working with a coach. We can't shrug it off anymore and say, I didn't really care if it doesn't work out, because we've put our heart on the line. This is the fear that the pain of a setback will be too much to bear once we've finally dared to hope. And that can be terrifying, because what if you fail? What if it doesn't work? What if you're not good enough? Oh my God, there's so many questions that could arise. Paulo Coelho offers this perspective. He says, tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams. What if the fear of failure is actually worse than the failure itself? What if the real suffering is living a life where you've never tried? The universe is conspiring in your favor, even when you can't see it, even when you're face down in obstacle number 3. What if we reframe defeat not as failure, but as part of the path, as evidence that you're moving forward towards something real? That would mean defeats are not a sign you're on the wrong path. They're information, data that allows you to course correct when needed. And you're still on the path. Obstacle 4, fear of realizing the dream. Self-sabotage at the finish line. And the final obstacle, Paulo Coelho calls this the most dangerous one. And it may feel tender, so let's take a quick breath. The 4th obstacle, the fear of actually achieving what you've been working toward. This is the obstacle, as I said, of self-sabotage. He notes that when it comes to realizing our dream, when we're right on the cusp, when we're right there, We become filled with guilt. We look at the world around us and see so many people who didn't get what they wanted, or gave up on their dreams, or don't have the same opportunities, and we start to feel like a spiritual imposter. We get close, so close. The dream is within reach. You can almost note it with all of your senses. It's so close. And then we make a mistake we wouldn't normally make. We pull back, burn it down, walk away, avoid the work required, convince ourselves we didn't deserve it. We unconsciously pull the plug because we feel like we don't have the right to be the exception to the rule. Whose rule? So we believe that if others didn't get to fulfill their dreams, we don't deserve ours either. It's the fear that if we succeed, we'll lose something: connection, relatability, humility, integrity, authenticity, you name it. You might not even know that this is happening. Maybe all on a subconscious level. But here's what Paulo Coelho offers. If you believe yourself worthy of the thing you fought so hard to get, then you become an instrument of God. You help the soul of the world, and you understand why you are here. Your success isn't selfish. Your personal legend fulfilled, that's you becoming an instrument of the divine, which is already within you. And as I mentioned, we'll talk about more in our next episode. That's you helping what we've called the soul field in previous episodes, the collective energy of all of us working toward our callings. That's you showing others it's possible. Changing impossible to I'm possible. Love that quote. So what if the invitation here is to stop sabotaging yourself at the finish line? What if you are worthy, not just because you've earned it, but perhaps because your soul chose this path? Every obstacle is proof you're on the path. Here's the thread that runs through all 4 obstacles. Even when you're buried under obstacle number 1, even when you're afraid of hurting people in obstacle number 2, even when you're face down in defeat with obstacle number 3, even when you're sabotaging yourself in obstacle number 4, the universe, aka God, if you'd like, is conspiring in your favor. When we want something, all the universe conspires in helping us to achieve it. This isn't magical thinking. This is faith. This is trust. This is the recognition that when you align with your soul's calling, the universe meets you there. This isn't about bypassing reality or pretending everything works out. Faith for me includes staying present, paying attention, and responding honestly to what's in front of me. Not always in the way you expect, not always on your timeline, but it meets you. And another quote from Paulo Coelho that grounds me when I forget and brings me into this moment. Maybe will for you. I don't live in either my past or my future, he says. I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living now. At one point in time, my company's tagline was "Only this moment is life." I still believe this. I still like to think of in this moment as a reminder and a call to recognize what is happening right now in this moment. Only this moment is life. This is magic. This is mindfulness. This is how I attempt to live every day, staying present, trusting the path, taking the next step. No, nope, it is not easy. No, definitely not with ADHD and not with perimenopause. Slip that right in there. But I know that with practice and repetition, I can find my way. So can you. Before we go on, let's take just a moment here to breathe with the frequency of Buffalo Springfield's I Am a Child. Let that innocence remind you of the dream you had before the layers of the world piled on. Now that you know the 4 obstacles, here's a story about how they played out in my life. Because I have walked through every single one of them at different points, and I'm still walking through them. So let me tell you the story of how the Alchemist came into my life and why it keeps teaching me. Chris and I met online, then in person, and all this happened pretty quickly. Just 1 week after our first in-person meeting, it was my birthday. Now I need you to understand something about me. I think we've talked about it before, but if we haven't, we will, and we will do it again and again. I'm a reader, not just an I like books reader. More of like my 2025 reading goal was 175 books and I finished with 180 reader. So this year I'm going to go for more. Books are a tangible aspect of my love language. Words. Sure, I love appreciation too, but words. They're how I process the world. They're how I've survived every hard thing I've been through. It's a cool thing that my mom and I also have as a connection together too. We love to talk about different words from time to time. And yet, in all my years of dating before Chris, no guy had ever given me a book. Not one. Flowers? Yes. Jewelry? Sure. Stuffed animals? Sure. Yeah. Generic romantic gifts? Plenty. But a book? Never. So when Chris handed me The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho for my birthday, a week after our first date, 1 week, I knew something was different. In the book, the main character learns that the universe speaks through signs and omens. And looking back, Chris giving me that book wasn't just a thoughtful birthday gesture. It was a primary omen, a sign. If omen makes you uncomfortable, think of sign, synchronicity. It was the universe's way of saying, I've heard your prayers for someone who sees the real you. Here's the proof. He didn't know me very well yet. We were still in that exceptionally early getting to know you phase. But he'd been paying attention. Inside the book, he wrote what I'm about to share, which I don't share very often with just anyone. But he said, free-flowing and pure, you grasp my words, thoughts, and feelings. Thank you for seeing me and being you. This gift is words by another, but words that touched my soul. I know you will grasp it too. In that short note, I knew that he saw me and understood me. And once I read the book, I realized he accepted me for who I was. My spirituality, my soul's calling, everything. And that he would grow with me. Because yes, here's the thing. Chris was the first person I felt I could be fully open with about my spirituality. I don't know if previous partners would have accepted it or not because I'd never felt safe enough to show them the real depth of it. I'd always edited myself, softened the edges, made it more acceptable, more reasonable, whatever that is. But with Chris, I didn't have to. And this book, The Alchemist, wasn't just a gift, it was a message. It said, I see you, I see your soul, I know it, and I'm not afraid of it. I mentioned it already, but when I read The Alchemist for the first time, there was that one quote that stopped me in my tracks. When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it. I really have believed this my entire life, but I really wasn't able to put it into these specific words. It really was like Paulo Coelho reached into my soul and named something I'd always known. I just couldn't express it in a way that I so deeply cherished. And it connected to something I've held on to since I was young, a Bible verse that had always resonated with me, even maybe when the language might not have truly fit right. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the gifts of thine heart. Psalm 37:4. I love the truth of it. I just didn't love the phrasing of Lord. It felt external, like someone outside of me granting permission. But nonetheless, I have returned to this verse time and again. And I'll probably bring it up in another future episode too, because I believe it's connected to another learning that I've had in my past. But Coelho's version, the universe conspires in helping you, that felt true. That felt like a partnership, like co-creation, like coaching, like my soul and the universe working together. So the book definitely, definitively played a role in knowing Chris was the one for me. But first, I had to deal with obstacle number 3, the fear of defeat. What if this relationship failed? What if I got hurt again? What if I opened my heart fully and it didn't work? I'd been through divorce. At that point, 3 years as a divorcee. I'd been through heartbreak a lot in various realms, whether it was intimate relationships, familial, friendships, whatever. Lots of heartbreak. And a part of me, a large part of me, was terrified to try this intimate partnership again. But Chris was patient, which is surprising because he's a Scorpio. He was supportive. He didn't try to fix me or rush me. He just stayed. And we walked through the obstacle number 3 together. That's what love does when it's real. It doesn't demand you skip the obstacles. It walks through them with you. So I've read The Alchemist multiple times since that first reading over 20 years ago. Every time I read it, it speaks to me differently. I encourage people that I work with to read this all the time, even if they've already read it. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I recommend reading it again because the message you receive will be different. A few years into my marriage with Chris, I was at a crossroads in my career. I was working in sales, managing a large territory. I was good at it. I was making better than decent money, but I felt so stagnant. I'd recently graduated from massage therapy school and I was feeling a pull in a different direction, but I couldn't quite name it yet. The call to leave this job had been coming for months even before I met Chris, so we can't lay the blame at his feet. This was back while I was in my last semester of massage therapy school. And then I found another sales opportunity. I thought, okay, maybe I just need to change companies. Maybe I need a challenge. This time it was in mortgage origination, and I'd been in the mortgage field at a younger age. So I left the previous role and I became a mortgage officer right at the time when subprime loans were very important to companies. And it felt wrong, deeply wrong for me. I did not align with selling subprime loans. I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so I picked up The Alchemist again. And this time, what stood out wasn't the quote about the universe conspiring. It was the preface. It was the 4 obstacles. Because I was standing right in the middle of obstacle number 2, the fear of losing stability. What if I left this job and couldn't support myself? What if I left sales and never found my way back? What if I could never find anything again that was right for me? What if I made the wrong choice? But eventually, I did make the leap. I left the mortgage job when I became a licensed massage therapist. And eventually that path, this path, led me to coaching, to where I am today. And it definitely wasn't a straight line. The universe was conspiring. I just couldn't see it yet. Where I am now. And now I'm in obstacle number 4. Success for me looks like seeing my Magical Solutions business flourish so much that I don't need a full-time job for benefits or income in that way. I'm getting it from this business because it's flourishing. But I struggle with procrastination, distractions, imposter syndrome, pulling back when things get good. I'm very good at sabotage. I love that song by the Beastie Boys. And loving the safety of my full-time job as a course instructor with the Headspace Training Institute. Definitely not a bad thing, but part of this. And it's also obstacle number 2. Does any of this sound familiar for you? This is obstacle number 4 in action in my life currently. And what's helping me move through it? Knowing I don't have to rush is really helpful. Living in the moment as much as possible, like we just talked about. Loving my current role and doing this podcast. Having my own coach and therapist, because, there are times when both are great, one or the other or none, but right now they're both supported. My community, all of you, business, coworkers, career, family, friends, and my faith, my spirituality always gets me through this. I'm learning to not sabotage myself at the finish line. Mostly because I believe this isn't the finish line, and the finish line always moves. I'm learning also to believe I'm worthy of this success and that I can do it. I'm learning that my personal legend doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency and showing up. That's the thing about personal legends. They're not always comfortable. They're not always convenient, but they are always true. And every obstacle is proof you're on the path. So how do we actually do this? Right? Let's talk about a couple tools you can use to identify which obstacle you may be facing right now and how to move through it. Here's the thing. Knowing the 4 obstacles is definitely helpful, but it's not always enough. You do have to do the work. You do have to take action if you want to move forward or move around them or through them. So I'm going to give you 2 practices, 2 tools that you can use to identify which obstacles you're facing and starting that process of moving through them. Practice number 1, obstacle inventory. Which one are you facing? First, it's important to name the obstacle standing in your way. Obstacle number one may feel like being buried or something is hidden, unreachable. Obstacle two feels like being tethered, tied, locked down. Obstacle three feels like being bruised, sensitive, tender. Obstacle four feels like being blindfolded, only more often than not, you've put the blinders on yourself. Grab your journal and ask yourself these questions. Am I an obstacle number one, where we're told everything we want is impossible? Here's your question. What dream did I bury because someone told me it was impossible, or society told me it was impossible, and it is still alive under all these layers? What dream did I bury because someone told me it was impossible and is still alive under all these layers? Am I an obstacle number two, where love or fear of hurting other people exists? Who am I afraid of disappointing if I follow my soul's calling? And is that fear keeping me smaller than I'm meant to be or want to be? Who am I afraid of disappointing if I follow my soul's calling? And is that fear keeping me smaller than I'm meant or want to be? Am I an obstacle number three, fear of defeat? What am I not trying because I'm afraid of failing at something I actually care about? What am I not trying because I'm afraid at failing at something I actually care about? Am I an obstacle number four, fear of success, self-sabotage? What am I sabotaging right now when it's about to work, when it's about to succeed? And why don't I believe I deserve this success? What am I sabotaging right now when I'm almost there, when it's just about to work? And why don't I believe I deserve this success? Write about it, name it, acknowledge it. Because once you can see the obstacle clearly, you can move through it, around it, over it. And you don't have to defeat the obstacle. You just have to move forward anyway. The obstacle doesn't disappear. You just get stronger, more focused. You're able to determine the best way around, over, or through. And here's something important to remember. These obstacles can appear at any given time in your life. They may not all be present at once, but they can be there. Naming them gives you a tangible way of understanding what's happening. Practice number two, omens, noticing the signs. In The Alchemist, the main character learns to notice and recognize omens, which are signs from the universe showing him the way, teaching him what he needs to know, preparing him, bringing him into the moment, in this moment. You can do this too. For the next week, practice noticing synchronicities. Pay attention to repeated words, phrases, or images that keep showing up. Books, songs, or conversations that feel like they're speaking directly to you. Maybe you're standing in the line for checkout somewhere and you see a magazine headline that says something that calls to you, or someone's speaking and you're like, wait a minute, that sounds like they're talking to me. coincidences that feel too aligned to be random, and gut feelings that say, pay attention to this. Write them down, track them, because the universe is always speaking. You just have to learn its language. And when you start noticing omens or signs, you'll realize the universe really is conspiring in your favor. Now, I know some of you are maybe thinking, this sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. Or maybe you can see the obstacle clearly, but you're not sure how to move through it. That's where coaching can help. As a coach, I work with people exactly in these scenarios, helping people identify which obstacle they're facing, reconnect with what their soul is calling you toward, and take the next steps with clarity and support. If that resonates, you can learn more about working with me at magicalsoulutions.com. But whether you work with me or you do this on your own, which I fully believe you're capable of doing, the invitation is the same. Start where you are. Name the obstacle. Notice the signs. Take the step. So here's your work for the week, if you so choose. Name your current obstacle. Which one are you facing? And notice the omens or signs. What is the universe showing you? And then take the step forward. Not the whole journey, one step, just one step. That's all your soul is asking you for. And nothing needs to be solved today. Awareness is already movement. If you haven't already read The Alchemist yet, I can't recommend enough getting it. Read it slowly, let it speak to you. And if you have read it, here's your sign, your omen to read it again. I promise, I really do promise it will teach you something new. Because this book, it's not just a story, it's a mirror. It shows you what your soul already knows. And this may be one of those episodes you come back to at a different season in your life too. So as we close, I'd like to leave you with just another final thought about personal legends, obstacles in the universe. Beautiful soul, here is your soul invitation and what I'd like you to remember if you're open to it. Your personal legend is not a destination, it's a path. It's not something you arrive at and then you're done, you've checked the box off. It's something you live every day in small choices and big leaps. And yes, you will face obstacles. You'll be told it's impossible. You'll be afraid of hurting people you love. You'll face defeat, maybe more than once. And maybe there'll be sabotage just before that peak moment. But remember, the universe is conspiring in your favor. Even when you can't see it, even when you're in the dark, even when you've fallen down and you're not sure if you can get back up again. The universe is still conspiring. And in this way, I love a good conspiracy. Your soul chose this path. God confirmed it. And now all you have to do is walk it. Not perfectly, not without fear. Just walk. Move. Pay attention to the signs. Trust your enthusiasm. And know that every obstacle you face is proof you're on the right path. Because the things worth living for, they're worth showing up for over and over again. And meeting the universe partway. Your soul invitation this week is to take one step toward your personal legend. Just one. Write the first page of the book. Send the email. Have the conversation. Sign up for the class. Say the thing you've been too afraid to say. And remember, your personal legend might not be part of your career or your relationship. It might be to be the person who brings peace into every room, or to raise children who know they are loved. It's the frequency you carry, not just the work you do or who you are with. Take action. And trust that the universe is meeting you there. Because it is. It always has been. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. This is an episode that I have been so excited to share. For being willing to explore the obstacles on the way to your personal legend. For walking this path with courage even when it's hard. This work of following your soul's calling is truly sacred and never easy. And I'm so grateful you're here for it. Consider this your invitation to the Magical Soul Society, a space for kindred souls seeking a more authentic path. Stay connected by subscribing. And if this resonated, share your thoughts with a rating or review. Again, this week's Soul soundtrack was inspired by the Made in Heaven movie soundtrack. I highly recommend checking these songs out if you have a moment. There's some really cool ones on there. If you haven't read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, honestly, I encourage so many people to read this book. Please do if you get a chance. And if this episode inspired or sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. For more resources and ways to connect with our community, visit magicalsoulutions.com. You can find out the actual spelling of that in our show notes. Know that soul work thrives in connection. Until we meet again, may you walk in wonder. Trust your light. Speak from the soul and feel the quiet magic weaving through your days. And remember, beautiful soul, you are magical. You are the solution. The universe is conspiring in your favor. Trust the path your soul chose.